Half a day and welcome to the Islandwide Beautification Task Force meeting. I'm Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio, the chair. I would like to introduce the members of the task force that are present here, and then I'll ask Janella or Crystal to let us know who else is online. So to my right, Vice Mayor Robert Hoffman, who is the vice chair on of the task force representing the Mayor's Council. To his right is Vince Ariola, Director of Public Works. To his right is Stephanie Flores, the Director of the Guam State Clearinghouse, and also coordinating support for the task force. To her right is Jesse Garcia, Deputy Director of Public Works, most recently Acting Director of Parks and Rec, and will be speaking on their behalf today. To my left is Christine Farron from the Forestry Division of the Department of Agriculture. To her left is Dr. Austin Shelton of the University of Guam, leading the G3 initiative. To his left is Robert Camacho, Deputy Director of the Department of Corrections. And we also have Rob Sanagastine, who is a Program Director in our office. I'd like to thank everybody for attending, and I will ask Crystal and Janella if they could point out, Janella, if you can point out who else is part of this meeting virtually. Great, so we have Conchita Titano from Guam EPA. Senator Kelly Marsh Titano, one of our partners from the Guam legislature. Lacia Casil from Hagatnya Redevelopment and Restoration Authority. Crescenda Uggan from the Department of Youth Affairs. Hi, Kim Anderson. Good to see you, Kim. Masako Cruz, okay. Lonnie Brennan from DYA. All right. And Senator Regine Biscoli, another one of our partners. Kiana Yuguth, okay. Jerry Tovis from Department of Labor. Jalen Santos. Great. Jackie Terlahi from the Guam Bar. Kevin Siswico, the Mayor of Agate. Very good. All right, so for the others, thank you very much for joining us. This is our first meeting since the COVID crisis, and of course, I'm very grateful that we're all here today. Today, we're going to be talking about a few things. Number one, and a new business, we're going to be talking about the reconstituted Beautification Task Force. And the Beautification Task Force, Senator Kelly Marsh Titano, introduced legislation with our support to give a refresh to the Beautification Task Force and some of the program areas that it will be focused in on. So right now, what I would like to do is I'd like to review the statute, and I'll ask Stephanie Flores to go ahead and lead the discussion for that.
Yes, thank you, Lieutenant Governor. So the Islandwide Beautification Task Force says that the Lieutenant Governor shall appoint an Islandwide Beautification Task Force consisting of the following members. Number one, the Director of Guam Visitors Bureau. 2, Director of Department of Public Works. 3, the Director of Department of Parks and Recreation. 4, the Director of Department of Agriculture. 5, the Director of Department of Corrections. 6, the Director of Guam Environmental Protection Agency. 7, one member of the Mayor's Council is appointed by the MCOG. And 8, other members as the chairperson deems necessary. The task force shall be under the direction of the Office of the Lieutenant Governor, who shall serve as the chairperson. And B, the task force shall work in conjunction with the Mayor's Council of Guam and existing government agencies and provide individuals and private individuals and organizations to beautify and promote Guam. Its functions shall be included, but not limited to, the coordinating efforts for the clearing of overgrown weeds or trees, the planting of plants or flowers, especially native flora, the restoration of graffiti-inflicted structures along the island's highways and scenic areas, implementation of other beautification projects, preventing littering, preventing the illegal disposal of waste at unauthorized sites, and preventing the destruction of public facilities, including parks and beaches, establishing education, training, or other programs of the same, and 7, addressing other pertinent issues. The task force shall purchase only those horticultural products grown on Guam.
Thank you, Stephanie. And thanks for sharing with regards to the functions of the clearinghouse. Do any of the members have any questions about any of these areas? Obviously, I consider this the floor. There are other functions, other activities that I would say that we'd be interested in the same spirit of the statute. But definitely we're in a posture to be a bit more aggressive. What I'd like to do now is let's go into item B of what I'll do is I'll go through the agenda and I'll come back to we'll come back to the tasks. And so I would just say that part of this is to reorientate the group and to refocus its efforts. The second area in particular of our agenda is review of litter control statutes. And what I want to put this here as a hanging item because it is a big problem for us. I am going to probably maybe consider having a subcommittee on this in particular, engage the Guam Solid Waste Authority. But I would like to pay special attention to this. I know that I've had several discussions with various senators and also community leaders about different approaches. I would like to say this, though. I am looking forward to, I would like to reconcile, and I am interested in advocating and proposing additional legislation that may be necessary on the issue of litter control. And the big picture that I'm thinking about is universal trash collection, which I know the Mayor's Council has advocated for. Right now during COVID, I know there's an issue with solid waste on the business side, but really, in line with the efforts for sustainability, trying to take things out of the waste stream. I would also like to point out that there's a considerable amount of effort that is being done on various task forces that the governor has named to try and understand more what's happening in the waste stream and to recover as many resources from the waste stream, push them into a circular economy. That's something that Dr. Shelton and I have been talking a lot about. But also trying to identify and look at the data. I think less than half of people that are renters or homeowners are subscribed to services. And there is some suspicion that some of the private services that are not licensed necessarily being paid are actually doing some dumping. So there is a lot of room here. In this area, I think in our next meeting, I'm going to ask the Director of Bureau Planning, who's a member who's not present, to present some of the work that is being done in the Zero Waste Task Force. I know Conchita Taitano is on as an observer or participant. And so what I'd like to do, Stephanie and Rob, is I'd like to probably in the next meeting get Larry Gass in to kind of give us just give us an overview on what's happening with their operation and the volume. We'll ask the Zero Waste Task Force to make their presentation about the ongoing work, and then I'll also ask Dr. Shelton to maybe include some of the big picture thinking that has been going on in some of the G3 efforts and some of the work with the Center for Island Sustainability at the University of Guam that we're definitely supporting. So that's kind of the framework. I know Public Works has, we have vehicles. So, I know maybe we'll get Mayor Hoffman to give us an outlook about what's going to happen with the abandoned vehicle program. Recently, Guam EPA has awarded contract or some money to the Mayor's Council to resume its abandoned vehicle cleanup. And then, of course, there's different other things that are happening that I'd like to really kind of coordinate. Is there any discussion from the committee members? And I would say to the members of the audience, we do have a public comment period that we'll get to at the end of the meeting. Anything else on litter control statutes? Anything, Vince?
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. This is, I guess, litter is just it's something real close to me, simply because we spend so much money on our island, on anti-graffiti, planting trees, zero waste, recycling, yet we still can't get people to throw their trash into a trash can. That to me is number one before we do anything else. It just is. We can recycle all we want. We can talk about green this and green that and anti-graffiti, planting flowers, local flora and stuff like that. But if you do all the nice stuff and people go and just litter right in front of it, then we really, it all goes for naught. So, on that basis, I wouldn't, if you don't mind, I'd like to chair the subcommittee. If that's still if that's the lane that you're going in, I'd love to chair that subcommittee, and get a smaller subcommittee going, and just come back to the main committee here and give you our ideas for getting rid of litter, to include mandatory trash pickup, trash services.
Yes, absolutely, Vince. I appreciate that, and definitely. And then we'll incorporate into your group at least some of the measures that are going on. Absolutely. So thank you for that. Any other discussion on this matter? Litter control, Dr. Shelton.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. I commend you for this idea that you'd like to promote universal trash pickup. I think that would be extremely helpful in solving the major litter problems that we have on our island. And also thank you very much for believing in the concept of the circular economy, where we start beginning to think of waste as resources and not simply as waste. There's lots of opportunities for green economic growth, and taking these products out of the landfill and spending millions of dollars every year just to bury it and eventually run out of space to keep doing so. So thank you very much for promoting those two ideas and for the honor of being on your task force.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton. I just point out that there is some enforcement authorities that are in the statute that might be underutilized right now. I know that there's a little bit training going on. There's a separate effort that I'm working on with park rangers, conservation officers, and police, trying to figure out a good supportive system that can be supportive of the EPA's authority and the other and Mayor's Council's authority to try and intervene in trying to catch some of the folks and try and change some behavior. So I appreciate that. All right, the next item, review of programs. We do have, as you know, prior to I guess several weeks ago, we were coordinating an island-wide cleanup as part of the refresh for Guam as we continue to make efforts to reopen the economy. And we had Give Us a Moment activity that unfortunately got delayed because of some COVID activity and the positive tests at that time. Things have been looking quite better. So I'd like to ask Stephanie Flores for an update on that effort.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. So the IBTF office has been working with the Guam Visitors Bureau to reschedule the event to August 1st. We have already sent out the reminder to our volunteers, and to the agencies, our different cabinet agencies. Some agencies had started to do some of the heavy lifting prior to the last scheduled event. We're asking them to go ahead and go back and refresh some of the work that they've done, because unfortunately, there's always a need for maintenance of our parks and roadways. So those agency assignments have gone out. So GVB and our office will be continuing to reach out and remind the volunteers to come out on August 1st. If people want to volunteer again or volunteer this time and they weren't able to sign up for the last time, they can contact our office at 475-9383 or 84, or they can contact GVB and we can slot them into the different parks and areas.
Thanks, Stephanie. We also have continued efforts for the adoption of bus stops, parks, roadways, and bridges. We had worked prior to COVID. We had a few activities with the Guam Department of Education trying to go and clean up and repaint some of the bus shelters that are around the island. So what I'll do is I would want to list that as a hanging item. Right now, Department of Education with Public Works supporting our planning for the reopening of school. It's quite a logistical situation they're dealing with. But what we'll do is we'll have, I know that the bus drivers are probably out there reconfirming routes. Vince, I would like to get a sense, maybe you can give us the top 20 bus shelters that need some attention, and we can try and get to that, include that maybe in the refresh, and try and prepare for the reopening of school. In addition, we do have the annual coastal cleanup that will be coming in September. And we'll have Bureau Planning give us an update on that effort. That is one of the most popular, definitely well-attended efforts on island, and we definitely play a role in supporting that. The other thing, Stephanie, is I know at the beginning of the term, we did do an island-wide tour of parks with all the government officials. We had Senator Kelly Marsh, also Taitino also join us. So I know that your staff did a kind of like an inventory and a status on that. What I'd like to do for our next meeting is also at least maybe update that and provide that to the members so we can see what are the projects that we do. The other thing is there is a considerable amount of resources that we've identified. There's about $6.5 million in interior money that we are reinvesting in parks and recreational areas around the island. Right now, there are about 20 bathrooms that are under repair right now. And then in the next wave, I think there's more than 20 or 24 projects that are come online, everything from converting basketball courts to kind of, I call it the Sinahanya model of the gym that we have up there. We're also recovering some parks, repurposing them. So what we'll do is I'd also like to maybe, I think the next meeting will probably have a lot to do. Maybe the following meeting, we'll give an update from Parks and Rec and Public Works about those projects, but we'll go ahead and make the projects known to everybody. They're going through the NEPA process right now. And these range from repairs in Ipal and Matapeng to some community recreational facilities in Dededo, Barragata, Mariso. We have repair of the gyms in Aganya Heights and Tamuning and other projects. So it's a pretty big effort that we've been doing as part of this task force work. So we'll go ahead and we'll give an update on that. All right, and the next group is I do have communications, and since Senator Kelly Marsh is on the line, and maybe you can go ahead and bring her up. What I'd like to do is I have two communications from Senator Marsh during the COVID period of time. She had been trying to be supportive and plan some and focus some efforts on some of the issues right now. And so maybe, Stephanie, what I'd like you to do, maybe summarize the communications we got, And then I'd like to give Senator Kelly Marsh Titano an opportunity to speak about the activities that she is suggesting that we address.
You received 2 letters from Senator Marsh, and the first one was June 9th, 2020, and then July 7th, 2020. And the letters are, one is a page and a half and the other is a 1-page letter, but the main point of the letter, and the senator will correct me if I'm wrong, but she wanted us to, during the time that we were being mostly at home, and we wanted to make sure that, she wanted us to make sure that we were doing programs to encourage people not to litter, to clean up the parks, to focus on the illegal disposal of waste and destruction of public facilities, and to get some education out there on how that can be prevented. And that's basically the main of it.
Had to do with really trying to give a jump start to really the work I think that Vince is talking about with litter control. And then the second one, just received on July 7th, has to do in particular with the activities over there at Parks and Rec. And in particular, and it is related to litter, one of the observations is that there has been a tradition for not having trash receptacles in parks. There's different schools of thought. Some people are in the, don't put trash cans because anybody's gonna dump. The other people are like, well, that's great. At least there's an option. It's better. It's gonna go into a place where we can manage it rather than in the jungle and things like that. So I think Senator Kelly Marsh Titano is on, and at this point, she's still on. Can you confirm she's still on, Janella? Yeah, so I'd like to give Senator Kelly Marsh an opportunity to just kind of address these 2 issues.
Just Mossy for having this meeting. I'm very excited to see it in action. It's comprised of a lot of movers and shakers in our government, and so I'm looking forward to the good work that's going to be coming out of it. It's an issue, as you've mentioned, that's been longstanding, and we do need a variety of solutions, both short-term and long-term, and the ones that we can do at the legislature, we're happy to do, work on some policy and do our part. And for this task force, it's such an excellent task force, I think, because it's comprised of so many entities that have a stake. They know our issues, they have the means to address them, they're strong, creative thinkers, and they will see issues through. So we're looking for short and long-term solutions, because the long-term is great. We definitely want the long-term solutions, but we're dealing with the issues now. So I'm also looking forward to some short-term solutions. And that's why I mentioned that maybe we could consider, at least for the short term, for a couple of months or for a year or so until the longer term solutions get there, to maybe consider for the key areas, a dumpster or dumpsters at those key parks where it's really a problem, there's a heavy traffic. And until we get legislation in place for more universal trash pickup and things like that, that might be a short-term solution. I want you to be able to do a cost-benefit analysis, but it does seem to me, and again, it's not a true cost-benefit analysis, but as you mentioned, if we can give them an option for now while everything else is getting into place, it's much easier to maybe work with the Guam Solid Waste Authority for a few months or for a year and just have them pick it up versus, and I love all of the island-wide trash cleanups. I really commend everybody for doing that. It's not easy, it's hard, sweaty work. But if we can keep more of the trash from being thrown out of a car window or dumped into the jungle and then having to be picked up now that it's broken up into 500 parts, but to pick it up in a trash receptacle in the dumpster, you know, I'd like you to look at that option and weigh it out, whether it makes sense. There are possibilities, and I know that you've thought of them as well, as far as maybe expanding some of the amnesty at mayors, again, until we get longer term solutions in place. Things that just hopefully are encouraging people to put the trash somewhere where we can handle it fairly handily, versus having to spend so many hours and spend so much time, government time and volunteer time, just picking these things up out of the jungle, picking them up off of a dirt road in the back road somewhere. That just takes so much time and effort, and then it's, as you've noticed and the whole community's noticed, it's unappealing at the same time. So I'm really appreciative that you have taken this on. You wrote a letter of support, Lieutenant Governor, and I think that thank you for that very much. And all the senators who had this vision with me, that if we expanded your authority, you are that permanent body that could develop awareness programs and really reach out to our youth and start young, so that they can be encouraging their parents and their aunties and uncles and the rest of us to get ourselves on board as well. So again, I just look forward to the work that you will be doing.
Thank you, Senator. All right, and so, you know, for the tasking, at least with regards to the park side, we'll task that to Director Alcantara, who's here with us, and Jesse Garcia from Public Works will help address on that issue. Any comments on these matters? Mr. Camacho, Bob Camacho from DOC.
I've been involved in a lot of trash pickup, you know, things throughout the years. So here's, I have some suggestions, if you don't mind, sir. You know, like we have the parks people here, and they have like 3 or 5 park officers. My suggestion is that we create a park reserve officer program, and I can help with that. I don't mind. And we can help manage it, because we already work with Parks and Rec with the parole office. So we can help manage that. And, you know, if we look at it, it's like $250 a month for 42 hours, just like the regular reserves, if that's possible. I'm not sure where the funding source might be from GVB or wherever. The other thing I've noticed going through the parks is there's no sign, hardly any signs that says, you know, before in the 70s, they had like, give a hoot, don't pollute, or they had all these different things that they used to have even back in the 80s, where they had these screen signs and, you know, have pride or something like that. So I think it's very important that we have some signs, and not only that about the pride, but also the fines. If, you know, we used to have problems with people parking in handicapped parking lots. As soon as we put that 500 in, all the violations went down. People didn't want to park there anymore. So I think we should have, you know, some kind of sign that says if you are caught littering, you'll be paying $500 fine. The parole office, the probation office, they all have these probationers and parolees. They all have community service obligations. So my suggestion, sir, is that, you know, a certain portion of that be to help Parks and Rec or what have you. You know, we can make that as part of some of the conditions or requests even with the probation office. And there are a lot of people on probation and parole. As far as the receptacle, sir, and I know that's has been a back and forth thing regarding that. And if we had, you know, a big container, and then it's locked up, and then, you know, at a certain time frame, you know, it's open. The park officers come in there, unlock it for between 8 to 5, when these beach parks are rented. You know, that can be part of the fee of renting those areas, whatever we have. Of course, Senator talked about the awareness part, and that, of course, you know, like, you know, whether it be the fire department, with the Smokey the Bear, or why don't we get like a mascot or something like that, that, for the kids, the young kids, that to learn how to pick up their trash, and, no matter what, some kind of promotion awareness. And that would be, like before, I know back in the 70s or 80s, the kids would have a don't pollute poster contest, right? Right. So we can have, like, maybe to design a logo. How about like a child to design a logo, right? Those are my thoughts there. The other areas, sir, some areas are not locked up. And, of course, you got a lot of people that are, if the beaches are alcohol free, and they go in there, and you see it all the time on Facebook, and everyone says, you see a whole bunch of beer cans and everything. So maybe that's another area we need to look at, just lock it up for some places, not all, of course. The one area that I didn't see here, sir, is the Scouts, the Girl Scouts. So, why don't we ask them too? Because they too are part of that, community service. The fees, okay, for the pavilions to help out with maybe some of the, the reserve program or what have you. The other thing I wanted to point out, sir, is that at UOG, they have these bio students. My daughter was part of it. And I used to help them out when they do the trash pickup and everything. But they analyze the type of trash that's, that they pick up at the beaches. Maybe some information that give us is it regular trash household, or is it, give us an idea of what's going on in the thing at UOG. And the last thing, sir, I think is that, the standards of the beach, maintaining the beach. You got people coming in there with like tents and all these other stuff. I don't know what the standard would be, when you come into parties, are you allowed to, barbecue on the beach, and set up fires? Because you go to Tangisan or you go to Jonia, you see it right in the long line, and then they leave and then what bothers me, sir, of course, is when I see like the tourists come in, and like a wedding couple or whatever, and they see this, and sometimes I tell my son and I, let's go pick up the trash because they're coming over. You can see they're coming, the tourists. So, it just bothers me. But those are my suggestions, and I hope that, help out. But I'm willing to help out with the reserve program, and maybe even like the logo contests, or schools. I can help with that too.
Excellent. Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
In fact, the last budget, or the first budget submission that we had, the governor did include a provision to create and establish a park patrol reserve program. Now, I'm not sure. I know that the oversight for law enforcement, Senator Terlahi, was looking at that. So I guess staff let's find out where we are. I know that there's also, somebody has suggested also adopting the accessible parking strategy. And there's pros and cons with this, but really to empower citizens to issue citations, similar to the program that is part of the enforcement of parking access for individuals with disabilities. And some people say it might be a little dangerous sometimes, but that is also part of the enforcement effort. I had an opportunity to speak with some folks over at EPA about the enforcement aspect, and so we'll go ahead and look at that also in the next meeting that we have. Any other questions or comments on this matter? Okay, I'd like to go back to the functions of the task force before we break. Just to go over to some areas. First thing is, the homeless project that we have. The governor felt very strongly of providing a stipend. We're tasked with creating a stipend program for homeless folks as an incentive, and part of the thinking is tying that to some of the community projects, like to supplement the efforts in the parks. There's a considerable amount of parks on the island. I think more than 174, and those are under DPR jurisdiction. Yes,
Yes,
Mr.
like I said,
Alcantara.
there's 74 what do you call that, parks around the island. And because of the trash condition here, I only have 2 people that collect trash, you know. And so we're trying our best to collect as much as we can. And they collect the trash every day. But because of just 2 individuals doing it, it's really a heartbreak. I mean, I understand where you guys are coming from because of the trash, but you know, we're trying our best. The parks, a lot of them are adopted already, and I've got a listing here of all the parks that are adopted, all the parks that belong to Parks and Rec, and the ones that need adoption. And we're going to go out and ask the public to adopt the parks, and they've been calling in, you know, to see if they can adopt a park. And so that's in the process right now. The two parks, that's the main parks, Matapang and Ipaw. I know we're maintaining that. There is a gate provided for those 2 parks, and it was locked. It's locked up by the riding patrol or whatever every night. So that's, you know, they can't go into those parks because it's locked.
And I think we do have some funds we're looking at to add security measures.
That's right. And then our guys, our 2 park patrols go around also and make sure that it's all locked up. And with 2 park patrols enforcing all of those parks that we have, you know, it's not feasible.
No, it's not adequate. In fact, so I'll just say that during this COVID period of time, the park rangers and the conservation officers have been working in a unified command with special operations at police.
Yes.
And part of that was to support some of the security efforts, but it really has been enforcing some of the social distancing mandates. We had closed parks. The thinking, though, is that there in many ways there's some common objectives and resources we're interested in sharing between those 2 groups.
Well, we do have an agreement with DOC to use the prisoners to do our maintenance, you know, cutting grass and some doing construction. And if you're aware that whenever they do 40 hours of work, 1 day is removed from their sentence.
That's right.
And if they work for construction, two days is removed from their sentence. That's 40 hours.
Right.
So,
in addition,
and then we do have also Mike Kinata with the parole. They're helping us also, and then also DPW is giving us the manpower to maintain maintain all of those parks.
Yeah, and I think that it's no secret that over the years there has been a reduction in the staffing at Parks and Rec and Public Works during the various crises. They've been the last to get filled. If people retire, the fiscal folks are not replacing them, and it has caused a problem. And in this case, the big risk now for Parks and Rec and for the administration and the legislature is that a big portion of their operation has been funded by the TAF. But the TAF, as we know, is not going to be in a position to support that operation. And I know that that's an active issue that we're looking at. When we invest in the facilities, concurrently planning for the maintenance has always been a deficiency. And that's something that we're going to address. Let me just, so again, I like to keep our meetings to an hour. But I just want to go point by point and give you some of the things that we'd like to look at with regards to the functions. Now, the clearing of overgrown weeds or trees, and then of course, Forestry Division has, I know, looks at this from time to time. The governor's top invasive species that she would like us to address is the Cadena de Amor, or the chain of love, which for folks that are not sure what that is, it basically is like a vine with the pink or the white flowers. And in many cases that has been suffocating and also killing some of the native plant species. So in particular, the ask from the governor, from me, is to really come up with a good strategy. I know that the Clearinghouse has been working with Department of Agriculture and actually University of Guam CAL's program, trying to figure out a way to develop a strategy on the cadena de amor. But I have to tell you, if there's one of the big things for us, I would say, is really trying to make some progress on that invasive species. Second, with regards to the planting of plants or flowers, especially native flora, there is, I know Department of Agriculture has sort of a greenhouse. They have a program that has been, I guess, given a bit more attention in the last few years. Still also needing to step up, and part of it is making sure that we in the government, when we're planting, go back and try and identify the native species that can be used. So that's part of it. I'd also like to point out that I know that each village has a flower, right? That's adopted. Some of them are native, some of them are introduced, but there is also a confluence with that. The restoration of graffiti, inflicted structures along the islands, highways, and scenic areas. This one, I would say that Public Works has been, I know their council has been looking at this. If you remember a few months ago, there was a child that was a victim of criminal sexual conduct in Dedido, in an area that was overgrown and abandoned structure. And then, of course, GBB in recent weeks has been pointing to a problem down in Tuman with a large abandoned parking structure that that has various issues. I know, Vince, we were looking at, there is Public Works has authority or some legal authority to try and do some enforcement with the property owners. That's still on the radar?
Yes, sir, it is. We are, I've been in contact with our legal counsel. The letters are just about finalized. I've seen a couple drafts. You know, since this is public, word to the wise, the letters will start going out to owners of abandoned structures because the law, the current statutes basically provide for the Director of Public Works to go after individuals or owners who have buildings or land areas that are basically a nuisance to the community. There is such a statute, and we can go in there and force them to clean it up, or at least fence it and make it safe and inaccessible to the public. But I think the main thing there is to keep it safe and clean.
Right. So I would just, it is a public setting. I telegraph to some of the property owners where there are derelict buildings or hazards. I would pay attention to that. There's some enforcement action that is on its way from Public Works. We spoke, there's general mandate on beautification projects. We talked about that. The littering side, we talked about. And then the education, training, or programs. And so, you know, that's part of it. But Bob, you know, and maybe with help from Austin and agriculture, I know that even Bureau of Planning, everybody has some program people. I know agriculture does, coastal zone management, little less over at Public Works, but and some at EPA, trying to maybe, what I'll do is we'll get together a committee of some of the program staff, and Bob will lead that along with maybe some folks from our communications office. Come up with proposals for a campaign. The most effective campaign really right now, it is click it or ticket. And I'll tell you, when I speak to kids at schools and you ask and explain to them the law, the first law they talk about is the seatbelts. And they always tell me, if you don't click it, you're gonna get a ticket. So something, you know, I think even if I remember growing up, give a hoot, don't pollute, you know, those come into play. So what I'll do, Bob, is we'll work with that. Rob San Agustin from my office will support you, and Crystal and Janella will identify the program folks that will be part of that effort. All right, so I would like now to go ahead and, Mayor, do you have anything?
Thank you. Just to update, so with the Mayor's Council, EPA transferred the money to the mayor's council, and on July 2nd, we had a meeting with EPA and all our pertinent staff of all the villages to kind of go over what the program is going to be about. Then on the 7th of July, I believe EPA met with the licensed contractors and those that will be doing the collections. And the priority categories that will be doing are abandoned vehicles, tires, white goods, to include electronics, loose metals, and then green waste. Each mayor, I know that they've been actively putting together the purchase orders, and we're confident we'll get the first sets of purchase orders out by next week, Tuesday. A lot of the mayors have already been actively getting the intakes forms in, getting the correct clearances, permissions, and once we do that, we'll make a big announcement about that part. And we thank the administration for agreeing to help fund this recycling revolving program. And we're going to continue to do it until we run out of money, which most likely will probably be mid-August or so. And I believe they gave us $500,000 for now. And so it depends what village it is. We have our preliminary numbers. Each village is different. So what they asked us to do is based on a certain amount is where would you prioritize your money? Some people have more tires, some people have more cars. So we're doing this, but every little bit helps is what we're looking at. And then whatever's not expended by some villages, we're going to be able to transfer over to other villages to help shore that up. So it is a start for us, and we want to be able to get it in time before DOA has to close all the purchase orders and do everything. But it's hopefully we'll get it done. You'll see a lot of heavy equipment going on and about in the month of August.
All right. At this point, we're going into our public comment period, and I'll go ahead and entertain any comments or questions from the public that are on. If any of the folks that are participating in the meeting virtually would like to ask a question or make a comment, I think, and there's an option for you to raise your hand, or why don't you just type something? You can unmute yourself also. Anything from anybody out there? All right. Well, you know what? Again, next meeting, we'll have this, the next meeting. Rob, do we have a? All right, we're looking for, so GVB had a conflict today. We had 2 members that are at their board meeting. We're going to, we'll go ahead and announce a new meeting date. And in that meeting, again, we're going to do some focusing in on some of the litter control problems and the zero waste opportunities. All right, my very good friend, Senator Regine Biscoli.
Hafaday LT, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Hafaday to everyone. I just wanted to make a real quick announcement. It's my understanding that the chairperson for the Committee on the Environment will be holding a public hearing on August 4th. I'll get back to you on the exact time, but looks like she will be hearing a bill that I've introduced along with Senator Kelly Marsh and I believe 9 other co-sponsors to just give an update on the plastic bag ban. As you know, that ban is set to take place, go into effect in January of 2021. And so there were some specific changes that were requested by Guam EPA. And so we've included some of those changes just to give them an opportunity to enforce the statute more thoroughly. And so we're just encouraging everybody, all the partners on this call, to participate in the public hearing, maybe take a look at the proposed bill and give us any feedback. So this would scrap the idea of biodegradable plastic bags and require all of the bags that retailers give out be completely reusable. And so if anybody has any questions, feel free to give my office a call. My number is 472-3455, or you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, shoot me an email. I'd be glad to get more feedback from you. And I also sent a message to Director Arreola that if he has any other things that come up in his subcommittee on trash, we're happy to help him in terms of policy and getting some of those things done before the end of the term. So thank you very much.
All right, Senator Regina, and thank you, by the way. I know that you authored the legislation to ban plastic bags, and we do appreciate that's a significant policy change that we support and embrace here in our administration. Any other items? If not, I will adjourn this meeting. I will give ample notice to everybody. We will negotiate. We're going to broker a date and time for our next convening. And I appreciate all of your assistance and your attendance. Thank you.